Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cinematic Schematic, the official podcast of the Cinematropolis.com, your home to thoughtful conversations on film and this year's podcast media partner for the dCFF24 2024 Film Festival. I'm your host, Caleb Masters, and today we're going to be talking with the filmmakers behind the short film Anuja. It's a short film on the important topic of child labor. And fun fact I discovered earlier today, it's holding its world premiere at this year's dCFF Film Festival. So we're going to be speaking with the filmmakers a little bit about what makes the story of Anuja so timely and important. We'll also talk with them about why dCFF and why the Oscar qualifying festival was the place they chose to debut the film. And then we'll close out by discussing how listeners can keep up with the future of the film. And with all that said, I want to note that if you've been enjoying the exclusive dCFF conversations, or maybe this is the first time you're listening, please support the show by subscribing. And that way you can have all of these interviews sent directly to your listening ears on your preferred podcast app. With that said, I want to read a short description from the film Anuja. Anuja, an exceptionally bright 9-year-old orphan, has quit school to work alongside her sister Palak at a back alley garment factory. When Anuja's former teacher shows up at the factory doors, promising her a rare chance to attend an elite boarding school, she finds herself facing both external hurdles and inner conflict. So much more about the film than that, but that's just a little teaser of the premise there. Joining me to talk with me about the film is the director and screenwriter Adam J. Graves. Adam, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having us. Really appreciate it.
Well, hey, thanks for coming to Oklahoma City. Also very excited to be joined by the film's producer, Suchitra Mattai.
So happy to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us and making the trek all the way here to Oklahoma City. I heard you guys just landed today, right? So tell me a little bit about dCFF. What excites you about the festival this year?
Well, yeah, we are literally just off the gangway, as it were. We've been on the ground for an hour here in Oklahoma City, and we're really excited about it. It is Anuja's world premiere. It's a project that a lot of people have been working on for a very long time. So it's pretty exciting that we're getting to share it with an audience for the first time ever here in Oklahoma City. I love the fact, we lived in Denver for about 15 years before we moved out to LA. There's a festival that is kind of quite similar, I think, to dCFF there. And I love these kind of regional festivals that are surrounded by film lovers who get this chance once a year to kind of explore films from all around the world. It's just really fun to engage with people from a community. A lot of film festivals, for better or worse, this is not a negative, but they're oftentimes populated mostly by filmmakers, and a lot of the regional festivals attract people who maybe they don't even go to the cinema all the time, but all of a sudden there's a festival going on, and they let's try this out, and they see short films for the first time perhaps ever, because short films are just not there's no distribution, there's no mechanism for distributing short films, or at least not one that's super successful. So short film, if you want to see short films, you got to do it at a festival, and dCFF is a great place for that.
And for you guys, Anuja is set in the humanities short films, so it's going to be a lot of different shorts that are focused on issues around poverty, issues around humanitarian crises, things of that nature, which brings me back to your film, Anuja. Can you tell me a little bit more about why your film is so important right now, and why is this the right time to tell the story? And Suchitra, I'll start with you.
I was drawn to the film. Adam and I have been talking a lot about child labor. We did a lot of research. And I think that for me, my family comes from a legacy of indentured labor. And in my visual arts practice, that's something that I, research and work through. And so when Adam was interested in this film and creating this film about this orphan Anuja, this narrative film, I was so excited to tell her story and to help him.
And Adam, so this was your brainchild? Is your pitch, your story? What was the inspiration?
Yeah, well, actually, that's the truth is it was largely inspired in part. I should say in part by my wife's practice. So my wife, I should say that. So we're a husband-wife team,
yes,
creative team, and we're creative partners, I should say. And she's a visual artist, and I'm a filmmaker, and have a background in academia and a background in South Asian studies. So I spent a lot of time in India. I've lived there off and on. I've worked with nonprofits and done research there. And so I always knew that I wanted wanted to shoot something. And just kind of riffing on her background and her practice and some of the concerns and issues that we discuss on a regular basis, we thought, well, wait, we came across a statistic that 1 in 10 kids on the surface of this planet are engaged in child labor. 1 in 10. And this isn't like working at your parents' restaurant on the weekends. This is UNICEF's definition is work that's detrimental to a child's health, development, and education. And so we thought, how many coming of age films about kids deal with kids who are engaged in this kind of work? And it turns out not that many. And so we thought, let's, first and foremost, it's just a film. Meaning we hope it's a work of art. We hope it's a story that's captivating, that's interesting, with interesting characters and happenings, events. But we thought, if we focus on kids from this particular, I don't know, you could call it a community, a sector of society, then perhaps we'll also be able to kind of draw some attention to an important issue.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a pretty powerful mechanism, storytelling. What do you hope in terms of audiences, when they watch the film, what do you hope they take away or are thinking about in terms of, I'm thinking specifically about here in North America, feels like it's a world away. How can you connect the dots between children and this experiencing this humanitarian crisis and the shirt I'm wearing right now, for example?
Yeah. The interesting thing, of course, is that we do live in an interconnected world. So many of the products we purchase, the fashion industry basically does depend upon labor conditions that I think none of us would be that proud of. And it doesn't mean that every company is employing children, but I think that one of the things that you could take away from the film, I think, is just what we're trying to do in part is to kind of humanize that statistic. Mm-hmm. So 1 in 10 children. I mean, that sounds very abstract, right? So what we did is we worked with organizations in India on the ground, and we worked with communities and kids who actually were from that background, who were engaged in work and who are now either living at a residential home for children who were formerly living on the street or whatnot, or were engaged in work. So we wanted to work with these kids and with these NGOs that were trying to fight child labor in order to really kind of put flesh on the bones, to kind of give people a real human experience and relationship with the kids themselves. And hopefully what that does to some extent is just makes us a little bit more aware, attentive about the conditions of labor that our lifestyle currently depends upon. So, when I go and buy a t-shirt, it's very likely that it was manufactured in Bangladesh under, in terrible conditions. What can we do? Well, we can put pressure on those corporations or our government to insist upon greater transparency in supply chain. There's a lot of discussion about the supply chains coming out of the pandemic, but very little of it was focused on the conditions of the workers. It was all focused on how come I can't get my fancy gadget.
Resiliency.
Yeah, exactly. So
secret, I worked in supply chain for like 2 years, and that was one of the words, resiliency. Humanitarian crises did not come up as often, unfortunately. But no, I think it's a great point that you raised that, though. I mean, we do live in an interconnected world. And what was you guys' approach to, I mean, obviously it sounds like there's some history here. In terms of when you were writing the story, what kind of research did you do? Did you go travel out to India and do some investigating?
Yeah, I mean, it was really important to us to go to Delhi to visit NGOs. The one that we most significantly worked with was Salam Balak Trust. They help. What is the number, Adam, of orphans who show up?
Yeah, every day 100 kids come off the train in Delhi with nothing but the shirt on their backs.
They're between 5 and upwards.
Between, I think they generally between 4 and 14, and so this organization works with that group of kids. But we did site visits. We worked with people. We had organizations send us also case studies. For example, the Kailash Satyarthi, which is a major foundation in India that focuses on child labor, helped us with that. We worked with an organization called Work No Child's Business and Save the Children. And so we basically spent time, having conversations with people who work in that sector and visiting the kids. And in fact, the kind of an important fact about the film, the girl who plays the lead role, Anuja, was herself living on the streets, working, trying to feed herself, working hand to mouth, with her sister, just about 7 months before we went into production. And so
it's a very real experience.
Yeah,
to the table.
yeah, because the film is, it just coincidentally, the film is about two sisters who are kind of more or less living, on the streets alone.
Well, one thing I noticed just kind of looking at the project was, I know you guys were trying to prop up the lead actress and sort of her work. Can you tell me how did you guys discover her, and what was that collaboration like?
Well, let me just say that we didn't discover her. Really, what happened was the Salam Balik Trust had a site. They have a center in Old Delhi, where kids are welcome to come and play and to study, and the ones, they can't save every kid because there's just so many children on the streets, but the ones who gravitate towards their arts and towards the arts and towards reading and towards film, or towards the kind of activities that they engage in, they invite to come and stay in one of their homes. And Sazda, the actress, she was one of those kids who just really loved playing, and she loved coming to the center. And eventually, when another film was actually being cast, she wanted to try out for it. So we can't even take credit for discovering her.
Mira Nair founded the center, the filmmaker, and so there's an emphasis on theater, and so the children have a lot of exposure.
I think that's super exciting. It gives them an opportunity to get out of just the survival mode, I imagine, and be able to actually explore expression in the arts in a way that they probably wouldn't have the option to otherwise.
Yeah, and I was going to say, we've talked a lot about the intention of the film. I would say also one of the additional intentions is to create poetry within the film, and so the storytelling and the sort of humanity of it is very much a part of it, and a strength of the film. As the producer, I can say.
I would add that it sounds like a doom and gloom kind of picture, like, oh God, that's going to be sad and depressing. But in fact, it's not. We didn't want to make it. We wanted to make a film that those kids would like, that they'd be entertained by, and so we focused on the story is itself something that kind of highlights the magic and mischief of childhood.
I know. I love that you're saying that, though. So you're really trying to tell a story that is both here to raise awareness, especially for folks on this side of the Atlantic, but also for people in those communities, children in particular, to inspire them to see a little bit of a glimpse of what could be, right? Mm-hmm. In terms of your collaboration, though, with your lead actress, what was that process like?
Pankaj Gupta is Sajda's acting teacher at that orphanage, and interestingly, he himself is a student of the same program. So he was a resident of the Salam Balik Trust as well. So he came out of that program and became a teacher there, and he teaches drama, and he became really a central figure in the film, central in the sense of developing the story. He's a kind of a story consultant on the project, and was her acting coach throughout the film. So I arrived. Suchitra couldn't make it for this, but I arrived about 4 days before we started shooting, and we had both lead actresses there, and we did play and exercises. We went out, we went and had meals together, and just kind of try to develop that relationship between those two girls so that they could you could feel the love between them, and they really did. It was incredible, the chemistry between them. They just became sisters almost immediately.
They think they had fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think they did. I really do. I think that were there times that were completely unfun? Yes, that's equally true as anybody who's ever made a movie. I'd be lying through my teeth if I said that every aspect of this film was fun.
And did you say that Sazda, the only thing she ever asked for was ice cream? Once she had ice cream, it was a party. So
it was a constant. Yeah,
I love to hear that. Working with younger actors, particularly, I think this is much different than here in the U.S. Especially, it sounds like it was a really rewarding experience for both of y'all.
Oh,
100%.
100%.
Yeah, it was once in a lifetime. Really, I'm incredibly honored to work with both of the leads and the community that helped us make the film.
Before we wrap up, a couple of questions I've been asking all of our guests at this year's dCFF series. Number one is, the audience is seated, they watch the movie, credits roll, lights come up. What do you hope that audiences take away or are thinking about as they walk out of the theater?
For me, though we're shedding light on a very serious and troubling topic, I hope that they can walk out feeling joy and hope that we can make changes in the world that actually matter.
Very cool. Adam?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that exactly. I think hopefully the film transports them to a world that they may not have otherwise experienced, and that experience will itself alter their own relationship with their own world, with their day to day. So I think that's what art generally does. It kind of somehow transforms our understanding of reality in important ways, and expands our understanding of human experience. So I'm not going to be as arrogant as to assume that our humble film will do that, but I sure hope it will.
I come from the school of Roger Ebert, film criticism, and he has that famous quote about films are machines that generate empathy, and they help us understand better the people that we're walking alongside every day. And this is like a film maybe I wouldn't seek out on my own, but now that I know about it, I really want to watch Anuja, and I'm probably going to learn a lot, or at least be thinking about things. And I think the same is probably going to be true for folks here at DeadCenter. Last question, and we've been asking all of our guests here in this at DeadCenter this year. What is your favorite film going experience? I want to ask each one of you. It could be a film specifically, or it could just be an experience you had watching a film with someone that you care quite a lot about.
This is going to make her blush, maybe, but it's really going to the movies with Suchitra. That's been something we've been together for let's just say more than 2 decades. And our earliest dates were we lived in Philadelphia, Old City, and we would walk to the Ritz Burrs or the Ritz 5 Theater and catch a movie and have popcorn with lots of butter on it, more butter than we care to eat now. But yeah, I mean, so many magical moments in that theatrical setting. So there it is. That I've said it.
I mean, I was going to say something similar, but if you were looking for a particular. Like
he actually gave the easy one where it's like, I'm going to describe the experience. No pressure.
This is just a funny anecdote, and it's not even. So before we met, we had both seen A River Runs Through It.
Yeah,
I know. As cheesy as ever and beautiful, though. And it just happened to be a film that was on our minds, and we could.
It's like that pop song. I said, we both like Breakfast at Tiffany's, or whatever.
Yeah.
I guess A River Runs Through It was
more
that
of
for us. Yeah. That's true. No, I think the first gift you ever gave me was a VHS of River Runs Through It.
Yes.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah. So there you go.
That's right, young listeners. VHS. You had to put it in a VCR and rewind it. I'm with you guys on that.
Not as cool as vinyl. Okay.
Not yet. Well, hey, it's been so much fun talking with both of you. Adam, Suchitra, thank you so much for coming and joining us here at DeadCenter and joining Cinematic Schematic today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
I can't fail to ask, where can people follow you and your work in this film online after the festival?
We have a website. It's just anujathefilm.com. ANUJA. But you can also follow me at Graves_films on Instagram.
Awesome.
And Suchitra Mattai Studios is that right? Is it Suchitra Mattai Art or Suchitra Mattai Studio?
It's Suchitra Mattai Studio.
Suchitra Mattai Studio on Instagram as well. That's a good place to see her work.
Well, you guys have both been a joy to talk with. Thanks so much for coming out. And listeners, thank you for joining us. We'll catch you again next time.